Well, hello friends, welcome back. We're in the basement, and look, so is our urban worm bag. I decided that for the time being, this isn't gonna be able to live anywhere else. I don't think our dome was warm enough, and honestly, I can't keep the garage warm enough, so we're gonna try moving the worms we have here in the basement into the urban worm bag. And there's not a ton of space down here in the basement. I've got the lights on so we could see better, but we're kind of in between storage. We got craft storage, craft table, and we're just going to snuggle the urban worm bag in between. Now we are on our bespoke build of maker pipe EMT conduit base. So we have a super sturdy build and it's on wheels. So if we need to rearrange it or move it, we're going to be able to do so. And well, here's hoping we don't need to. Now, it was rough with these worms when they froze slash drowned. So what we had salvaged, you guys have seen in the feedings recently, all of that's going to go in here. But I also have 2 bricks of coconut core that are going to get hydrated up. And we're going to get this, this bottom area set up so that way it's very dry. And if there's any extra moisture in our bins, it'll absorb up okay, because we can always add more water. It's harder to take it out. So that being said, let's get this bottom of the urban worm bag started and ready for our worms. And just as a preliminary filler, I've got some brown packing paper that I've crunched up and put in the bottom. This is going to help fill in a lot of the weight, but it's completely dry. And so that'll absorb any of the moisture that pools up at the bottom. But also, I know that once we add our coconut core, shredded paper, etc., that's going to help fill in all the nooks and crannies as it compresses down. So this is going to be multi-purpose. It's going to absorb the water and help fill in with all of the, well, the smaller pieces to make a nice sturdy bottom drainage area for us. So this is what the 2 bricks of the coconut core look like. It's mostly hydrated. I let it sit for a little bit. Parts are more damp than others. And then I'm still working through a lot of the shredded paper, cardboard bits that we used when we moved across the country because, well, we had to get rid of it anyways, but it also made for great packing material in the sense that it was kind of like a cheaper bubble wrap. So this is what we're going to start mixing in for the bottom layer of our urban worm bag here in the basement. Now I'm going to mix this together, give it a good little mix. This is obviously not everything that I just showed you, but it's enough to get us started because keep in mind, we have 3 totes of paper, material, worms, and stuff that I'm going to try to fit in here. So I want to focus on that, but I think it's super important to get this base layer set up. Normally, if you're starting worms, I would say you're supposed to let this sit for a little bit. The moisture on here is great. Not too much moisture in there. It'll be just enough to absorb any of the extra. But because the worms are technically in their own bedding, in their own environment, and we're just relocating that, and this is going to be at the bottom, I'm not really worried about it. But if you were doing a fresh start, absolutely let this sit for a couple days, let it marinate, and you let the organisms start doing what they're supposed to be doing. Last time we checked in bins 2 and 3, bin 3, which we thought was, well, the least likely to have any survivors in it, that one has slightly shown a little bit more activity where bin 2 really has not. The moisture levels are better. We put a bit of water in last time, so I can feel that, you know, the paper is damp and whatnot, but is there worms in bin 2? I'm sure there's a few here and there. We can see one right there. But last time, this was the bin that was the least populated. Bin 3 was the second, and bin 1 was the best. So what I think would make the most sense is to take bin 2 and dump that into our urban worm bag first and see how full we get. I think given the amount of paper products that we have here, I'm probably gonna shift through these a little bit, make sure there's no obvious worms on any of them, and I'll probably just put them over here in our coconut core bin, and we can always add that in at the top, but it's pretty bulky. Same with the egg cartons, so unless we actively see worms on them, we'll probably just temporarily discard them or put them in our outdoor compost bin. But clearly bin 3 has some activity. We got some worms crawling up here, so fingers crossed we see some babies while we're in here. Wally, how the worms doing? You happen to check on them? I know everybody can't see it, but you're wagging your tail. More gentle and graceful way to do this other than tipping it in, but I don't know what that is. So we're just gonna slowly get this stuff in here. Oops. I said slowly, but gravity decided otherwise. I'll show you guys. I was able to pull 2 or 3 extra little worms out. There's clearly a bunch of paper from the bottom bin that we had put in originally that was helping absorb all the extra moisture, and it did. It's damp. It's definitely doing what it's supposed to. So I'm going to take some of this extra paper out because I don't think it's going to serve as a ton of good, especially when it's in big sheets like this. Not that there's no value in having any of it. It's just, well, I don't think it's quite as beneficial as the shredded paper or the coconut core, but I don't know. Let me empty this out. I pulled out a decent amount of paper, left some. I really didn't see a ton of worms. There's a few here and there, but there's nothing remarkable, so I doubt anybody was injured in the transfer. I'm going to add 1 little bag here of our paper. This is going to help absorb some of the extra moisture that had piled up in that bottom layer and freshen up the lot. And I think it's time for us to get bin 3 in here. So let me go grab bin 3. There's bin 3. We got a bunch of stuff paper-wise on the bottom, so I'm going to pull this out, see if there's any worms that need rescuing in here before we get to this. Well, we definitely have enough coconut core in here, so I think before we add bin 1, we're going to add some shredded paper to the bin. Just a little bit to help with the moisture management. Give that a good mix. Alright, here comes bin 1. Turns out there weren't as many worms in here, or at least none that not as many as I could see that I thought there were. There's definitely more than bin 2 and bin 3, but I was hoping to see a little bit more, especially around the food. There was a few. Don't get me wrong, the avocado pits are always a hit, but as far as worm balls and activity, I'm sure they're in here, but not near the food. We're getting a little deeper in here and found our thermometer, our wireless thermometer that we had buried in originally to keep track of the temperature. And this has been in the garage, this has been in the basement, in the bins. Right in the middle is where we've been keeping it, so we'll bury him again. But currently it says it's about 66 or 59. Nope, maybe that's upside down. 65 degrees. Not optimal, but not the worst. We're also getting to the bottom of the bin where we had made an eggshell layer, or egg carton. Well, you know what I'm talking about. We made a layer of that. And I'm hesitant to dump that in, but I know you guys can't tell, but there are worms here and there that are going to need to be rehomed here. It just about fit. We're doing okay. We have some worms, not as many as I'd hoped or liked, but given how full this is, and that it's going to be in the basement, in a cooler temperature, I think I'm going to order some more worms here soon and see if we can't help this population grow, or at least process some of this, especially before we feed them again anytime soon. So make sure you're subscribed so you can keep track of how this urban worm bag in the basement is gonna go. I'm sure some of these red wigglers are gonna do okay in here, but at the end of the day, we know that 65, you know what it is now, is not their comfort zone. So we'll see how that number translates once all of this thermal mass is in there and it has time to kind of percolate a little bit, but I doubt we're going to be seeing above 75, if that, you know, maybe once we get some food in here and that's breaking down. But I think we might have to look at some European night crawlers We definitely have the depth for it, the dimensions for it, and well, the temperatures are going to be good for them, I think. So now we know what we're doing later this spring. But for now, we'll let these guys settle in and get cozy and, well, make themselves at home. All right, friends. Well, I'm Alessandra. Thanks for hanging out with me and the worms today. Hope you guys are doing good. See you soon.